Well, hello, Governor. It's your old pal, King Waspinator here. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. You're definitely going to want to do that before you hear any of the content in this, because it's certainly going to be controversial, if you couldn't tell by the title. So, I'm sure as some of you might have noticed, there's been this trend in a lot of entertainment over the last half-decade plus, giveabouts. In role-playing games, but also in comics and movies and television, and basically throughout entertainment, of this, kind of phenomenon where, under the auspice of, we're going to have a new, more inclusive version of this old classic property, kind of a thing. You often will see, the big studios, production companies, whatever, kind of throwing the old content creators and the old content under the bus somewhat, while also trying to get that original fan base and a new fan base to embrace their new and improved version of IPX. We've seen that with Ghostbusters, to a degree, Star Wars, Star Trek, the X-Men, DC Comics, Dungeons and Dragons, which is obviously most relevant to this particular channel. There's things about that have always struck me as kind of disingenuous. Now, I used to think that this was like a direct conscious marketing strategy on their part, and it still could be, but if it is, they've done a really good job at keeping a lid on it. Which could be the result of just, studios keeping tight NDAs on their marketing departments and marketing research. It's quite possible. But as time goes on, I'm more open to just kind of considering it an emergent phenomenon. Kind of that chaos theory stuff where you take a bunch of different colored particles of sand and they're all randomly mixed up, but you shake them all together for long enough, and eventually they'll sort themselves out into specific bands of color and create patterns and all that kind of stuff. Patterns will emerge out of chaos if you shake it enough, sort of a thing, and give it enough time. So this could be one of those kinds of situations. It could just be a bunch of people subconsciously kind of just coming to similar conclusions and doing similar things and picking up on each other's cues. And some of it could even be cargo cult thinking, where no one's necessarily really, like I said, not really consciously aware of what it is that they're doing, and yet they're doing it. So, racism bad. We want to condemn, the racism and bigotry of the past, on all sorts of fronts. Bigotry against women, bigotry against gays, bigotry against people of all various nationalities, language groups, and skin colors. That's a noble intent. However, it's funny that, they want to still capitalize on old brands that they also at the same time are declaring as, not being inclusive enough, i.e. being racist. And under the best circumstances, they're softball declaring the original content creators and makers of these various properties we like. They're softball calling them a bunch of bigots when they're not outright just doing that up front. And yet, for some reason, we're still supposed to buy and consume their new version of this. Now, you'd think if we're supposed to condemn and cut out all trace of our bigoted past, then, you would think we wouldn't be trying to reboot old sexist, racist, transphobic, bigoted, anti-Islamic, fill-in-the-blank properties from back in the day. If the original Ghostbusters was so misogynistic, then why remake it at all? If the original Star Wars or Star Trek was too racist or not inclusive enough, why even keep making it if it was so bad? Why do their attempts to make these things into these inclusive works always kind of feel like they fall a little flat? Well, I feel like the real reason for this is they don't want to just abandon the property, obviously. Modern day entertainment is owned by companies that aren't themselves entertainment companies. They're big holding companies that own stock and investments and all sorts of different things, and movie studios, comic companies, publishers. They're all just part of a larger, grander portfolio of big catalog of shit they own and get to show off and try to maximize profits out of. And, you know, you want to keep making money off your old IPs. They're trusted. A lot of time has been put into building this brand. Why just throw it out and, you know, risk money on an unknown when you have this solid thing? But you, you need to, you know, get a new generation into it somehow. And also, if quite possible, the more you can redirect revenues towards yourself instead of whatever kind of residuals any surviving original creators and or their families are still due, well, then you need to change it a little bit. The old 25% thing that was kind of, you know, made famous by, you know, the CBS All Access Star Trek, where, you know, if we just change it 25%, J.J. Abrams can have this money, and then we don't have to give any of these old screenwriters from Star Trek The Next Generation or Voyager, you know, any money for having used a character they came up with, that kind of thing. And the diversity thing and accusing these properties of having been made by bigots in the past gives you the perfect justification to do all that. You know, it gives you a reason to say, oh, you shouldn't watch the old version anymore because it was made by bigots. You need to watch our new and improved version. And because we've race, gender, or sexuality swapped, you know, up to 25% of the characters, hey, guess what? Now it's our original creation. We made this all up ourselves, and now we get all that delicious revenue. Ah! And I kind of feel like that's what's really going on. And you know what I mean? Like they don't even, like, they're not genuine about it because they do bad jobs at portraying some of this, you know, of the very diversity push that they're promoting. They do a bad job of. A good example is The Last Jedi. I know obviously people are divided on that movie quite intently. If The Last Jedi is a pro-feminist movie, why is Admiral Holdo come across as unsympathetic and antagonistic? Now, if your real intent was to promote feminism and feminist characters, I would think you would manage to find a way to write them in such a way that audiences actually like the person and want to emulate and or follow the example of that character. You don't turn them into purple hair meanies who are treating all your main characters like shit and so on. You know, like if you really wanted Rey to be a strong, iconic feminist character, you would have given her some adversities to go through. But instead, you don't actually really believe in that shit. That's why you do this pat on the head pandering kind of feminist character where she can do no wrong and just girl power from point A to point B without any hiccups, which is like that's off-putting to a lot of people, women included. You don't sympathize with that because you don't feel for her, because instead she just seems kind of like an aloof bitch, know-it-all, never do no wrong. Michael Burnham, to a degree, suffers that problem in Star Trek Discovery. If I just feel like if they were genuine about like actually wanting to promote these values, they would do it in a way that audiences just, you know, like accept and eat up. George Miller, when he made Fury Road, did a much better job at getting across some of that movie's overtly feminist messaging that didn't seem to like piss off every fucking dude out in the world, because those women had to struggle and they went through hardships, and some of them died on that Fury Road to get to, you know, where they were going to find their green place. It was a struggle. It was a nail biter. Are they actually going to make it? It's not like Rey, where you're like 5 minutes in and you're like, oh, obviously she's just going to coast through the end because she's got a cheat code and can't take any damage from any of these NPCs she's fighting. So, pardon. Guess the COVID's finally come for me. It's what I get. It's what I get for bad-mouthing our serene, super wise overlords in Hollywood, who certainly aren't making cynical marketing decisions to purposely divide fan bases on a cynical attempt to get people to dishonor the original product while still trying to capitalize on their nostalgia for that product so they'll buy the new version of the product. I'm sure that's not what's happening. It's just that everyone in the world is a rampant bigot. So, good night, bigots. Tell me in the comments below what kind of person you hate the most. Leave a like and subscribe. Check out some of my books on Drive-Thru RPG. Just run a little search for Total Party Skills. All that good shit. And have a good one. Stay waspinated. Why are you still watching? Go away.